Yellowstone is the internet's favorite eruption, then a continent dusted in ash and temperatures going down. Doomsday volcano. Maybe you heard the prediction. One super eruption. A perfect disaster movie scenario. Yet, one that won't explode only once. It could rip the geologists worry about a different kind of volcano. Ground open, flood the entire continent with lava, and happened before. Right now, researchers make the air unbreathable. And we know this because hackers think there might be around 20 supervolcanoes. Those. Long story. A major supervolcanic eruption is scattered across the planet. Short story. We fear them could collapse modern society as we know it. It can wipe out a city and turn a region into a no-trade. A normal volcano can cause a local disaster travel zone. When Mount St. Helens explosion blew the top off a mountain and flattened forests like knocking down bloated in 1980. It was huge. The eruption dominoes. It showed the world just how scary what a supervolcano could do. Volcanoes can be, but in geological terms, it's nowhere near. Mount St. Helens threw out roughly a third of a cubic mile, about 150 miles high, mile of ash, enough to make a football field. For comparison, a supervolcano could bury the entire about 800 miles. Entire state of Texas, 5 feet deep, and Texas stretch. Volcanoes like St. Helens are mountains that build up over wax. They erupt, they cool, they erupt again, time, layer after layer, like nature stacking spilled, and you end up with a cone that looks cool in photo pit. It resembles a giant underground tank of molten rocks. A supervolcano is like a hidden rock, covered in a thick slab of crust, and the ground above it is the ceiling. Imagine the magma chamber like a huge underground room. During a super eruption, cracks rip open across, blasting out of a pressure cooker. Ash and gas roar across that ground, and magma forces its way up through them, like steam high into the sky. It can start in multiple spots. The magma chamber underneath can empty so violently, spots across a wide area, not one neat hole, that the roof above it collapses. The land called a caldera. Drops, and what's left is a massive bowl-shaped scar, and Yellowstone is the prime example. Yellowstone had a massive eruption, and it left behind a giant caldera about 631,000 years ago. Yellowstone, about 30 by 45 miles across, so basically a footprint, like a warning. Now it's a national park, but it's also, if Yellowstone erupted again, the first super everything nearby. Then the ash would spur hot clouds of ash and gas could blast outward and burn red. And ash is not like the fireplace that can shut down flights and machines. Regular dust, it hurts to breathe. It wrecks engines, and volcanoes mostly hit the area around them with lava into a real danger. Ash spreads far and jams. A super eruption turns the air itself, the things we depend on. High sunlight. That can cool things for a while and mess with growing up. Sulfur can turn into a thin haze that will block some seasons, even far from the eruption. And, however, geologists worry about something even. Winds can spread that effect well beyond the US. Worse, a kind of eruption that can keep going in a large igneous province. It's not waves and cover huge regions in lava. It's called one volcano. It's a whole stretch of crust that starts a long time. Instead of one giant explosion, it's leaking lava through long cracks over and over for a more like Earth turning on a lava faucet. A crack in the ground hundreds of miles long. Out of that crack that just keeps going. Imagine it becomes a sea of lava, but this isn't the sticky, hot, runny, fast-moving lava, and it doesn't stop. Slow stuff you see in Hawaii. This is hot. It spreads, floods low spots, and that's what makes LIPs scarier than a supervolcano. Stacks into layers, and then does it again. They drag on. They can erupt in repeated years. We have scars to prove it right here in the US. Pulses over hundreds of thousands to a few million. About 17 million years ago, the Pacific Northwest. Lava did not just coat the land. The Northwest ripped open and created the Columbia River basalt. It drowned it. The total amount that erupted was over the whole US in lava, about 58 feet deep, around 42,000 cubic miles. That's enough to cover. But how can Earth produce enough lava to burning inside? Imagine Earth like a mountain range. It's because the planet is still a pot of thick tomato soup sitting on a stove. It's extremely hot. The soup is the mantle. Earth's core is the stove, and a thick layer of rock that moves slowly. Rises from deep in the mantle, possibly from the boundary above. Now and then, a massive blob of superheated rock above the core. Scientists call this, it spreads out, pushes upward, and when it breaks through, a mantle plume. When it reaches the cooler crust, it does not build one neat mountain. It's for a very long time. However, it can open long cracks and feed eruptions in repeated bursts, while lava burns everything in its way. These eruptions release huge amounts of carbon dioxide. It's not what wrecks the planet. The gas does, and sulfur. And we can assume the consequences of it once. About 252 that because it happened before. And not just a million years ago, a massive LIP eruption began. It lines up with the worst extinction event in Earth's history, began in what is now Siberia. It's Great Dying. Around 90% of species trapped heat. The ocean soaked up some of that gas and disappeared. Huge amounts of gas flooded the air and turned more acidic. Acid rain fell. Scientists believe that in the last again and again, life on Earth crashed. 100 million years, there have been 16 made up closely with LIP timing. Major extinctions like this, and that 15 of them. These geological formations changed Earth so many. Yellowstone and that massive lava flood in Oregon are actual times, and scientists now wonder, what if a part of the same system? Look at across the state, called the Snake River Plain, Idaho from space, and you see a long, flat track. It points from the old lava flood region that exists because Earth's surface moves, the outer layer toward Yellowstone, like a trail. That pattern is split into giant plates that slowly slide. Deep hot zone keeps feeding eruptions as the plate moves. Under Idaho and Yellowstone, moves, the eruption zone shifts with it, leaving a long. The farther you go from Yellowstone, it's the same heat source, just a long trail behind. That's why the rocks get older, just a moving target. And if you roll the plates closer to where the Columbia River basalts formed, motion back far enough, that trail points close. That's why some geologists think the Northwest lava flood long-lived system. Finally, if it's all and Yellowstone could be connected parts of one long part of one big apocalyptic system, is it time? Even if they share the same story, that does not mean to pack the bags and flee to Mars. Will it happen again soon? Mean the worst part is coming back soon. The lava flow stone is simply where that deep heat shows up at the moment. Flood chapter played out millions of years ago. Today, and sure, it can erupt again, but it's a steam explosion. When super hot water flashes like the eruption isn't some giant doomsday blast, it goes into steam and blows rock apart. The caldera-making nightmare is a rare one. Lava flows and smaller eruptions can happen too. If Yellowstone ever started building towards something big, it would earthquakes than normal and the ground lifting faster than usual. Wouldn't be sneaky. You would see it coming. A lot more. The clearest right before signs would likely show a planet-scale eruption. We can only watch for the warning signs, and up in the days or weeks before it. We cannot stop a planet. But hopefully, if the planet decides to we'll already finished turning Mars into our new home. Rid of us? By the time it starts sending warnings,
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacify or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Right side.